So a very warm welcome to everyone to this session of Sangha Live. And as always, real delight to be stepping into this space and a real sense of sharing it with everyone. So as far as I can tell, everything in the technology is flowing well today for me, which isn't always the case. And it's always happiness making when it feels like it is flowing in the right direction and, click a button and the computer and programs respond to your, to your wishes, to your will. And that's in the part something that I actually want to speak about today is how we can relate well in a world that has lots of dynamics to it and also lots of potential complexity that can actually kind of leave us befuddled or confused or feeling powerless. And that principle is called dependent origination. But don't worry, it's not going to be complex description of that. It turns out relatively simple things that we can pay attention to, and all in the spirit of increasing possibilities. So one of the dynamics of our existence is this sense of community, which we participate in and co-create. And many of you have already put in your kind words and beautiful wishes into the chat and really feel invited to do that. And as you do it, maybe also just recognizing with a sense of appreciation for yourself and for others, what that does for you to feel, kind of that taking of your place, that exposing of your self here. And yeah, it's very, very beautiful to see that and to witness it and to feel it and feel that sense of community coming together. So, as many of you will already know, we're going to have a short reflection on the theme of this week. And the theme is to be honest. And, we're looking at that possibility that we can be something that can be more reliable. And also, we can use this quality of honesty as a way of settling and establishing our inner state. And when we're able to do that, I think it makes us more available to the world in positive and creative ways. So I'm going to open out, have a little reflection on there, and then we'll have half an hour of relatively silent meditation together, just dropping in a few of those elements. Today's might be a little bit more wordy if I end up doing what I'm intending to do, but if that turns out to be too much for you, you can also mute and just come back in after. So after that will be time where we can have some questions and responses, reflections from your side, and I'll offer whatever I can in response to that. Two ways that you can do that. One way is you can raise your hand. So we have a raise your hand at the bottom if you want to come on the screen and discuss and explore that way. And we had one yesterday that didn't fully flow through, so happy to give another go there. And anyone else is also welcome. And also you can ask a question in the chat by typing with capital letters the word question, and then whatever question you want to bring out afterwards. And as someone's already done in the chat here, you can mention if you're having any technical problems. And hopefully anyone who's not having any technical problems can let you know that no, for them the stream is fine, they can hear well, or whatever else, and then we can isolate it and figure out whose device it is that is at a loss. And also your reply to them also encourages me to feel a sense that, oh, okay, it's not coming from my side, which it might be. And if it is, then I'll see, oh, there's not been any reply to that person's issues. And then I can turn the dials, fiddle on the knobs, refresh my browser, And yeah, so what I want to speak about today is extending this idea about honesty and honest about dependent origination, that things depend on other things. And in many ways, I thought this might be easiest to talk about, the truth that we didn't know we know. Yeah. That we can practice for a long, long time and not think in terms of dependent origination. And yet our practice is entirely an expression of dependent origination. Simply put, if if our practice didn't do anything for us, then it wouldn't have a dependent impact on other things. It wouldn't be that, our state is dependent on our practice, right? So when we do our practice, we establish a posture and we pay attention to the breath. And many times we will notice, oh, that's nice. That is just quite nice, just to be able to still, to stop, not to keep turning that way, to be able to observe our heart and mind, to be able to open out all these different things. Yeah. And in a sense, that is meaning that this posture, this practice, this encouragement of where I'm placing my attention, my experience depends on that. My experience is not something separate from that. And therefore, when I relax my shoulders, it starts to change how I feel. And when I change how I feel, it changes how I see what appears to be out there, this outer world, right? So they depend on each other in ways that you just initially might not really think could possibly be true. How on earth can the world out there have some dependency on how tight my shoulders are around my ears? And yet it does. When you soften your gaze, you see through a softened gaze. Okay, so that's the truth we maybe didn't know we knew. We didn't know that we knew about dependent origination. There would be no point being mindful. There would be no point being radiating kindness. There'd be no point being compassionate if it didn't have an impact, and it does. So that's what we do. We practice that. And in fact, mindfulness is rooted in this word sati, which means to remember something, to call something to mind, to call it and hold it in mind. And I think that that's the thing that we're supposed to be calling and holding in mind, is that this moment is dependently originating. Another way of putting this, maybe just in the more semi-colloquial, like a phrase I find useful is remembering the possibility of possibilities, right? So we could say just remember there are other possibilities available to us. But another one is just remember that it's possible that there could be other possibilities. And that's what we call to mind. And that's what we hold in mind as we do our practice, as we flow through. So this is all rooted in something that the Buddha called this, that conditionality, which sounds, again, complicated, but that's just because we're trying to put it in as minimal words as possible so that we can say, oh, remember this, that conditionality. Things are conditioned by other things, right? And the Buddha gave, a pair of kind of couplets to walk us through this. When this is, that is. When this is, that is. Yeah. When I'm clenched, tight, contracted, then, the world appears this way. Yeah. But then he also says, from the arising of this comes the arising of that. Yeah. And that's kind of movement over time. Yeah. If you keep banging your head against the wall, comes the headache from that experience. Yeah. One little knock is maybe okay, two knocks, three knocks, and it's like builds up. Yeah. So that's one part of a couplet. And that's kind of two parts of two couplets. And then the reply is, when this isn't, that isn't. So when that contracted, tense, rigid, isolated sense is let go of, the dukkha that it was causing, the stress, the difficulty, the pain, also goes down. From the stopping of this comes the stopping of that. When I stop banging my head against the wall, slowly, slowly over time, my headache fades. And it's actually the combination of those two principles that really opens the possibility to finding a strategy, to break the causal web. So if causes and effects were entirely linear, the cosmos would actually be, totally deterministic. All the stuff that's coming up from the past would just have to, be the way it is, right? There'd be nothing in this moment that we could do, but there is. If, on the other hand, it was all synchronic, it was just like this comes, that comes, and we'd start doing that, there wouldn't be any purpose of having a path. There wouldn't be any purpose of cultivating beautiful conditions which go forwards in time with us, the development of our practice. And so when we bring these two together, we can actually see that we can learn from the causal patterns observed from the past and apply our insights in this moment, disentangling ourselves from some of those. And then what we get to see is we can relate in different ways. We can bring different qualities into being. Yeah. So, a really good example is actually, maybe the third kind of complex sounding bit of theory we're bringing in. And I'm really hoping that if I bring anything to the table of Dharma teachings, I think I can explain complex things relatively simply, because I'm quite simple-minded. And so I've had to kind of look at these and think, okay, so what does that mean? Okay, so stop doing unhelpful behaviors and we release ourselves from dukkha that way. In the moment when it lands, is there something I can do here? Am I contracted? Can I release? Yeah. Am I holding my breath? Can I breathe more freely, more fluidly? And the way that we meet these things impacts our experience. Can I open the spaciousness? And over time, I also understand, can I stop doing those unhelpful behaviors that entangle me, entangle others, bring difficulty? And all of that is possible. But in this moment, is there something to let go of so that I can see clearer, I can move forwards? So the third kind of complicated word of the day, which some of you will already be fully familiar with, is called Vedana. And there is no good translation for the word Vedana. It literally means the hedonic response or hedonic reaction to experience. How much pleasure do I think this is going to bring me? The closest I can get to in good old English is it's a niceness opinion. It's our opinion of how nice or not nice this thing is or is going to become, right? So you get a pain in your leg and you get a niceness opinion of unpleasant, unwanted, got to get rid of it, suppress it, keep it down there, ignore it, take some medication to numb it, that kind of thing. The initial impression that's unpleasant is what we call the Vedana. The secondary building up and arrows of reactivity, as some of you will know that kind of phrase from the teachings, that we add on to that, I don't want it, that's outside of Vedana. That's the reaction to that Vedana. You see something that you've eaten before, it's rich, it's fatty, it's sugary, and it's warm, or it's cold, and that's the desired outcome for our existence, and we're like, that'll be nice, that's nice, and we apply that label onto that thing. The thing itself doesn't have that quality. As we will know, those of us who've eaten too much of that thing, the Vedana has started to change. That quality, it was really nice, and we think, yes, it's delicious, and then it's like, gee, it's not delicious, it's kind of dulled, and now it's not actually so nice, but I'm still going with it because that's how much I ordered, or that's how much there is, or you might want more later. And then it's going to get to a certain point where it's like absolutely every molecule in this body is saying, no, I don't want it. The tongue no longer wants it. The belly hasn't wanted it for a long time. The mind is still like, well, it's there and it's free. Let's have more. And then eventually that too just says, got enough of this. This is not, So the Vedana does not belong to the thing. It's us making a self-view projection onto the experience. When we remember that, we remember possibilities. So, I have other ways I can relate to experience. I have other ways to pay attention to experience. This isn't something I have to do. I don't have to reject everything that my impulse says that's not nice. I don't want it. I don't have to grab in everything that says that's nice. That'll make me feel worthy in some way. So our preference becomes a reference by which we live. And when we're mindful, when we remember that, we can say, no, I have other possibilities. When there's pain, I can respond with compassion. When there's beauty, I don't need to respond with desirousness. I can respond with appreciation. Yeah. Or I could respond with generosity. That'd be something really great to give to someone else, particularly when we have more than sufficient to cause ourselves ill-being through that. And so they say, the great way is not difficult for those who do not pick and choose. And for us, we're going to move towards that great way by understanding that it's very natural to pick and to choose. Yeah. But also, it's very natural and feels really good to see that urge and bring in kindness. So the invitation now is going to be a little bit of like a metta meditation, a kindness, goodwill meditation to the phenomena that appear to us, to the sensations that appear to us, choosing to meet them with kindness, right? And this is playing in this web of dependent origination on a slightly deeper level than we might normally, yeah? So this arises due to causes and conditions, so thoughts will arise, not because they were bidden in this moment, but perhaps there's a causal pattern there, tendency to think these kinds of thoughts, and meet them in this moment with kindness, with soothing, with ease. And so here, right now, in this moment, see that when this isn't, that isn't. That normal reactivity doesn't happen. Things start to fade, things start to ease. Freedom opens up in particular ways. So feel for yourself what's going to be a good posture for this. And remembering, we have many postures we can practice in. You don't have to practice sitting. You could stand, you can lie, you can walk around. Yeah. Just checking what's going to be helpful for you right now. It's going to bring the right kind of energy that you need in this moment. Yeah. And finding your way into that particular shape. And noticing what you can notice in the heart and the mind. When this is, that is. And notice what happens when we soothe and we ease around the body space, or give more tender care to the body, heart and mind in this moment. When that isn't, this isn't. When we soften the reactivity, tends to make a difference. It can be subtle. But if we see any change, and it seems like we could attribute that to our attitude, our kindness, our relaxing, we're seeing dependent origination. The central insight of these teachings. Just beginning to guide the attention maybe towards the breath or towards the sounds, just to kind of establish ourselves in this moment. Letting our sensitivity come through. When we notice tension, out of kindness, inviting that tension to release, allowing that tension to be released from our grip. So not just so that I feel less tense, but so that tension is released as if for its own benefit. And if I find myself being reactive to stimuli, just inclining the mind towards kindness. It doesn't have to be a radical, incredible kindness, but just beginning on that journey towards kindness. Let you settle yourself into your practice for a bit and then come back in. So it is generally helpful to relax a little bit more and to lessen the heart-mind quality of rejection and picking and choosing that we often find ourselves in, but it's not the whole of the path. And so if you do find that you've relaxed and starting to feel dull, it's making sure that we also balance that gift that we're giving ourselves of easing and softening. When it leads into dullness, we can also brighten the attention, come more into the experience, allow our sensitivity to reveal how alive everything is actually, how dynamic, how fluid. What seemed to be a thing is really more like a dance when we get close to it. You could take the example of a breath. Seems to be a thing, this in-breath, but when you really tune in, the wave, the movement, how it shapes the body, you can have that same kind of idle delight of moving one's hand through a stream. We move our attention through the body with the breath. There are various delights also to be experienced in listening with relaxed brightness, with vibrant tranquility. And so gifting yourself the delicacy and sensitivity of your attention towards whatever is arising, remaining, passing through. When this is, that is. And what the Buddha wanted us to notice, when reactivity is, dukkha, stress, distress, dis-ease is. If we release reactivity, we also begin to release stress and distress and dis-ease. But also remembering that from the arising of this comes the arising of that. We can see that in positive terms as we release reactivity, tension, rejection in this moment. We contribute towards a future moment with a bit more peace, sensitivity, and ease possible. But of course, there are many, many conditions, and we don't control them all. And they're also arising in this moment, giving that feeling of pleasure and pain, nice and not nice. And we're not trying to control for that, but we are interested in the effects of how we meet it and how that opens possibilities. So I invite you to guide your attention towards something in the body that doesn't feel so nice, and don't go to the most difficult to be with area first. And if the body's not the right place, you can be with the most annoying sounds. Any condition that's a little bit difficult to be with. Can we just notice? Can we open there, soften? Almost as if we're giving it more space. So oftentimes with a air of unpleasantness in the body, we can feel how it's restricted to that area, and just what happens if we allow that to open out, expand. And also our attention to expand, to come to the outer edges of it, where it's kind of beginning to cease to be unpleasant and moving more into a neutral, we could say, feeling, and just playing on that edge with kindness, with gentleness, maybe breathing into and around it. And if you feel inclined, coming closer. And as the apparent unpleasantness gets to be met with kindness, just notice what happens when it's given spaciousness, given interest. And for some of us, some of the time, as we bring our attention in here, what appeared to be an unpleasant thing has seemingly become less of a thing and also less unpleasant. That dynamic felt experience can even disappear completely, whatever that means. If that happens, just keep sending in kindness into the space, place where it used to be. And whatever remains, we'll also meet that with kindness and care. And if it feels more unpleasant, it feels like this is adding stress, then at any time just change to a practice that you know works for you. And if it turns out that the absence of sensation, should that arise, is too subtle for attention right now, that's a really good thing to notice. It's not a failing, it's just, okay, then let's go to another sensation in the body. Opening out the space, finding the outer edges where it feels tolerable. We begin welcoming, allowing, maybe breathing that kindness. And doing the same if we're working in the field of sounds. Opening around the vibration and allowing, supporting, welcoming it as best we can. It can be helpful if the mind is wandering a lot to really be sensitive to the breath, to the breathing, really sensitive to the sounds. So it's still that same kind of familiar territory of breathing and being attentive. But we're using that breath, using that listening to also carry a message of kindness to that which we hear, to that which we listen to in the body. So many of you will know we have what they call a negativity bias, a tendency to notice what's not all right. And in the spirit of not picking and choosing according to normal habit patterns, let's see if there's anything in the body that feels okay, that maybe isn't actually demanding our attention because it's okay. Sometimes you might find that in the palms of the hands. They actually feel okay. Just mention a few others, maybe the little finger. One of the little fingers feels okay. Insides of the elbows. Bottom of the chin. Somewhere on the ears, the earlobes. Yeah. Just finding somewhere, guiding our attention there. When this is, that is. When we attend to this, we can open the possibility for that. What's it like to allow something that's not demanding your attention to receive your attention? Your sensitivity to dynamism within this sensation. And just pouring as much kindness as you were to what was unpleasant, into what is seemingly okay or maybe even pleasant. We might find it becomes even more pleasant. Even quite enjoyable to be given so much space, so much attention, which really is a gift. When you give your attention to something, it's the greatest gift. Your kind attention. Just see what unfolds for you. If it feels like it wants to expand, you can allow it to expand. If it feels like the kindness is nourishing, let it nourish. If it's inviting the attention to become more subtle, maybe invite the attention to become more subtle. Play. Play as you wish to play. And if it's not what you wish to do, then change. Do what you wish to do. If you're working in the body space, just an encouragement to gently, slowly but wholeheartedly expand to the whole body, around the body, that kind of space of awareness around the body, internally, as deep as we can know internally, which is very, very deep, and all the way to the skin and the space around, held in a loving awareness, goodwill, kindness, allowing it to brighten, to expand if it wishes to, and joining those who are working in the sounds will extend out our listening, so we have our body expanded and also listening, all the sounds that can be heard, not picking and choosing anymore, just all welcome. Whether they seem to be pleasant or unpleasant, they're welcomed to be here. We're open, with more spacious than spacious. Yeah, you can arrive, you can remain, you can pass in kindness. And also any flavors on the tongue, also welcomed and included. Any aromas in the nose, also welcomed and included. And whatever mood or emotion or thought stream is flowing through the intellect, welcomed and included. And any light or color meeting the eyes, also welcomed and included. The all of the all, everything we can sense, anything we can know, is welcomed and included. And in the final moments of this meditation, can we also turn this outwardly? May all the beings of the world feel welcomed and included, those near and those far, those here and yet to come, on the land, in the water, and in the air. May all beings everywhere be peaceful, feel in harmony, and be loved and respected. So in your own time, in your own way, we'll begin transitioning, and that can include not ending, just carrying on. You don't have to follow this rhythm. If you're going to just keeping alive that feeling of sensitivity, that feeling of whatever it is you've cultivated, spaciousness and kindness. So once more we can transition into a period where you can offer your questions and reflections. And I'll just mention a few words about the way that this platform is being offered freely and openly, without picking and choosing, without trying to create any borders and boundaries for people to step in to this space where we can hopefully nourish each other, feel connected to each other, and develop our most beautiful qualities that we can do in this life. And for that reason, of course, it's necessary that it's offered freely, because we don't want money to get in the way. And by offering it freely, it means, we're willing to take that kind of gamble, take the first move of generosity. And if you're in a place in your life where you can offer support back to the kinds of things that you value and, see as important, and bring importance and accessibility to the kinds of skills you think the world needs, then you're invited to take that opportunity. And there's the donation link about to appear in the chat. And if you didn't notice it on the way in, it's also on the daily meditations page. You can find it there. So really thank you everyone for your support in the ways that you can bring it. And really clear also that there's no expectation. This isn't offered and we said, but don't worry, we'll get lots of donations from people. If you can't give, don't give. Don't overstretch yourself. This is a time, the cost of living crisis and many other things. So those who can't give, just know that others will give on your behalf. We are a community, and together we'll be strong enough to weather these storms. And if you do need real support, then be in touch about that, and maybe there's ways that we can help you out as well. Great. So I hope that was an enjoyable journey through dependent origination. That conditionality might sound abstract, but we actually realize absolutely every moment is impacted in this way. And so if you have any questions, reflections about that, you're very welcome. I still have the one in my pocket from a couple of days ago. I don't have it right in front of me anymore. I did bring it along yesterday, but we didn't use it. But it went something like, when I'm having a day with a lot of papancha is proliferation of thinking, usually in a negative sense. Usually maybe there's inner criticism there, or the outer criticism, or it's creating a lot of agitation. We have a wonderful example there of that conditionality coming up. Streams of pattern, habits of thinking, those kind of things feed in and they come up and they're in our direct experience. How we meet that matters. And the questioner was reflecting that what works for me is to just stop and meditate. But if I want to be more awake in the rest of my life, am I just going to have to do that and take little meditation breaks every so often? So first things first, good understanding of that conditionality there. And if meditation works for you, then wow, thank goodness that something works for me. And so we can just celebrate that for a moment. But ultimately, what we might want to look at is our particular definition of meditation. Is it dependent on a posture, and is it dependent on a kind of closing the eyes and other things like that? Because of course it's not. It's actually not. It's actually dependent on our intention. Our intention may be to be kind, or our intention to be steady, our intention to soothe, our intention to relax, our intention to brighten. Once we set an intention and we bring that intention into attention, now we're beginning to meditate, all right? So in that moment, you understand, okay, there's a lot of papancha, or there's an irritating environment that I'm in, and I need to stop, have my moment of Zen over here, separate from that. And that's a certain way of seeing that conditionality. But another way is to say, well, what if I bring in the kinds of qualities into this moment that I recognize are missing? And then start to grow those. is that having an impact? Is that as radical a shift as it was when I went and changed my posture and do those kinds of things? Yeah. So it's something that we can always do in all kinds of moments. And I maybe mentioned already, I'm running a course at the moment with Guy House called Fulfilling Intentions. And it's very much around that kind of idea that let's make these practices really, really accessible. And what I would suggest to people is have more than one little session of meditation a day. And it can be 5 minutes. Try and have 3 through a day. And then we're actually not that far away from the last meditation at a moment when we get hit by this proliferation of thoughts, negativity, difficult environments, unpleasantnesses that come up. You only need to go back so far to remember, oh yeah, I can soothe, I can calm. And we also get more and more familiar of like a built up moment rather than only practicing when I've just woken up from sleep. I also practice when, I've been at work for a while or been around my kids for a while, or I've been, in certain circumstances for a while. As I stop and have 5 minutes. And is there something possible that we can tune into in that 5 minutes that actually really nourish and open our experience? I think there will be. And I think that will strengthen our capacity to do that and have more and more, meditations that rather than being just a sitting meditation becomes a sitting around meditation, a standing around meditation, a walking around meditation, just being here in the shops, breathing meditation, gratitude meditations, and all of those kinds of things open out as possibilities for us. So I think let's have a definition of meditation that works for our lives. And I would say it's intention, attention, and reflection. What did that do? I brought in kindness. So look at that meditation we just did. What happened there? I had a pain sensation and I opened the space and I brought in kindness. What did that do? Reflect. Yeah. Oh, that was really good to do. Do I normally do that? No, I don't. Okay. So that's my intention going forward. So I'm going to do this for the next week. Anytime I feel a painful sensation, I'm going to try that out. Open the space, open the space. Let it become subtle, let it become sensitive, let it become dynamic. And I'm going to bathe the edges that feel tolerable in kindness until I see how far I can go. See how close I can get to what feels to be the heart of that thing. And I might find I can go all the way. And if I can go all the way, what does that say about the existence of this pain? That it was dependent on my reactivity? That's odd. Very odd. What is the limits of kindness and care? What is the limits of opening around experience? And if we believe in the kinds of things that great Buddhas and the like teach us, is that it's not a comprehensible limit. Yeah. And there's always a little bit more subtle, a little bit more beauty that we can bring into our existence. And that's fundamentally what these teachings are saying to us. Remember your possibility of possibilities and enact it. So thank you again for being here with us at Sangha Live, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow, where we'll continue opening out these explorations of being honest and truthful and developing inner clarity in our existence and being a reliable presence in an unpredictable world. Take care. Wish you well. See you soon.